Record. Yes, 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 yes. Keep the wind coming. Because here's the deal, family. What the wind represents the supernatural. That's what the wind represents. The wind represents the supernatural. And tonight, what we're going to be talking about is how to tap into that. So this is the emoji that we're going to see all over social media. This is the emoji we're going to see in all the chats. Because again, you got to see it for you to believe. You got to see it for it to actually happen in your life. So how did we get here? How did this call happen? What was the reason for us not doing it on Monday and all that stuff? So let me give everybody backstory and backdrop. So last year in 2019, towards the end of the year, we set a goal as an organization to have 20 chairmen a part of the group. That was the goal. And obviously the goal was set for 2020. 220 came and went and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So what a lot of people do when they have a goal and the goal doesn't get hit, a lot of people, get upset. A lot of people, quit, give up, whatever the case may be. But when my goal didn't hit, when the goal that we set didn't get hit, what I did was I went to search. I went to find answers as to why. I wanted to know why didn't it happen. I wanted to know how we could get better for the goal to actually manifest. So like I told the team on Monday, on the call, I was praying. I was praying on the 20th. On the 20th, I was praying, and after I got finished praying, I went to my bathroom. So in my bathroom mirror, I have 20 chairmen drawn out in stick figures. I had 20 chairmen drawn out in stick figures, and it has a date on there for 2/20/2020. And so I'll never forget going into the bathroom. I looked at the mirror, and I was like, dang, man, I really wish this would have manifested. But, it's all good. I reached down to grab my glasses. And once I grabbed my glasses to open them up and put them on my face, one of the arms break on the glasses. So God spoke to me in that moment. He said, it's time for a new vision. Right? He said, it's time for a new vision. See, the reason why the first vision didn't manifest of 20 chairmen on 2/20/2020 was because the vision lacked strategy. And you want to write this first point down. Any vision that comes from God will always have strategy. Any vision that comes from God will always have strategy. All right, I'm gonna say it one more time. Any vision that comes from God will always have strategy. And a lot of times the vision or the strategy is there. It's already around you. But what our awareness has to do, our awareness has to increase to a place where we can recognize the strategy, where we can recognize the resources, where we can recognize the people. All right, because all the knowledge that you need and all the people that you need, all the things that you need to help you acquire success, they're already here. You just have to be aware of them. The vision, the goal, the strategy was already here. I just wasn't aware that the strategy was already here, right? So again, guys, what we're moving into it is a season of supernatural activity. And yes, it sounds great, supernatural, and it's great for everybody to say it, but if you don't have any foundation, if you don't know what it really means to live a supernatural life and live in the supernatural, then you're basically just building your business or you're building your house or your life on sand. It has to have a foundation. And that's what this call is about tonight. So if you're excited, drop some wind emojis in the chat box. If you're excited to see some more wind in the chat box, because it's about to get really good. I want you guys to know that it's about to get really, really good. Because I'm going to give all the things that I've been that God has downloaded into me over the past few days or so to you, so that again you can have the strategies and techniques and everything to live a supernatural life in totality in every single aspect of your life. So what is the supernatural? What is it? All right. So what the supernatural means, or what supernatural means, guys, is forces or events that cannot be explained by science, right? Forces or events that cannot be explained by science, right? Forces or events that cannot be explained by science. Then we have a supernatural world. See, the supernatural world is beyond human thinking, right? This is the world where God operates. All right, this is the world where God operates. The first point I want you guys to understand is we live in a supernatural world that was created by supernatural. That's the first point I need you guys to get. We live in a supernatural world that was created by the supernatural, right? And 60, when you look at the number 60, you can't have the number 60 without the number 6, right? See, this could have been, supernatural 90. It could have been supernatural 30. It could have been supernatural 120. It could have been supernatural 10. But there's a reason why I chose to go with supernatural 60. And here's why. Because you got to understand the power of the number 6. It's about to get really good. You got to understand the power of the number 6. See, when I think about the number 6, there are a few things that come to my mind, but the most important thing that comes to my mind was the fact that the world that we live in, the supernatural world that was created by a supernatural being, was created in 6 days. Right? It was created in 6 days. Why is this important? Because when you understand, when you're aware that the world that we live in was created by the supernatural in just 6 days, then you can really understand what can happen, what can manifest in your life in 60 days, in 90 days, in 120 days. Are y'all understanding what I'm saying right now? I need y'all to talk back to me in the chat box, because as y'all talk to me, I get more energy, right? So in 6 days, right, the world was created. And when I think about supernatural, I think about creation, because that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to create a goal. We're trying to create something. We want to watch something manifest. So when I think about creation, I have to go, right? My mind automatically took me to the number one story of creation. Right? It took me to the number one story of creation. All right, so I'm going to paraphrase and kind of bounce around, but I need to give you foundation so that you can understand why we're saying supernatural 60. Because without the foundation, you won't be able to understand. Without the foundation, you'll be speaking vain words and vague words that don't really have any feeling or meaning. But when you really have awareness, you understand what it means to be supernatural and live in the supernatural, you move a little bit different. All right. So let's go to the story of creation. All right. It's the first thing you'll ever read when you open the Bible. All right. First thing. And I'm going to be very quick, because I got to get through the whole call. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. All right. And then you skip it down a little bit and you will see it says, then God said, let there be light. And there was light. And evening passed and morning came, marking the first day. I need you to really follow me. It's about to get really good. Then God said, all right, let there be space between the waters to separate the waters of the heavens and waters from the earth. And that is what happened. Then evening passed and morning came, marking the second day. Then God said, let waters beneath the sky flow together into one place so dry ground may appear. And that is what happened. Then God said, let the land sprout with vegetation, every sort of seed-bearing plant, and trees that grow seed-bearing fruit. These seeds will then produce the kinds of plants and trees from which they came. And this is what happened. And evening passed and morning came, marking the third day. Then God said, let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. Let the light shine down on the earth, and that is what happened. So on the on the fourth day, that's when time came, right? On the fourth day. Then God said, let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind. So God created great sea creatures, and every living thing that scurries and swarms in the water, and every sort of bird. And evening passed and morning came, making the fifth day. Oh, this is about to get so good. Then God said, let earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and wild animals. And that is what happened. Whew, here we go. Then God said, let us make human beings in our image. They will reign over the fish in the sea, birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry the ground. So God created human beings. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then he blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth, govern it, reign over the fish in the sea, birds in the sky, all the animals that scurry along the ground. Then God said, look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant throughout the earth, all the fruits for your food. And I have given you every green plant as food for the wild animals. the birds in the sky, and all the small animals that scurry on the ground, and everything that has life. And that is what happened. Then God looked over all that he had made and saw that it was very good. And evening passed and morning came, making the sixth day. Now, there are a few things that we can learn from that text. Few things that we can learn from this text. And I'm about to give them to you. Because the first thing that you want to understand is that you want to take a look at how God created. First of all, you want to take a look at how God created. Then God said, let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place so dry ground may appear. And that is what happened. Then God said, and that is what happened. And then God said, and that is what happened. So every time God said something, that is what happened. My first point, your words carry weight. This is my first point for you to live in the supernatural. You got to understand that your words carry weight. And because here's the deal, you were created in his image. You was created in his likeness, which leads me to my second point, that you're supernatural because supernatural power lives on the inside of you. So that's point 1 and 2. First point, your words carry weight. Second point, you're supernatural because supernatural lives on the inside of you. Let me go back. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. See, you're a spiritual being. See, God doesn't have an image. He's spirit, right? So you was created in his image, meaning giving you the same abilities to do what he can do. You have the same ability to create just how he creates. Now, how did he create? He created using his words. He created using his words. You have to understand the power of your words. Your words carry so much power because you're not a natural being, because you're a spiritual being. That's why every time we speak something, it always creates. It always happens, whether it's good or bad. Every time we say something, it comes to pass, whether it's good or bad, because we're a spiritual being and we're created in the image of the most supernatural person ever, which is God. So that gives weight to our words. You have to understand the power that literally lives on the inside of you for you to really tap into the supernatural. You got to understand that power. There's a God, there's a supernatural power that lives on the inside of you. You were created in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it, reign over the fish in the sea, birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. Then God said, look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant throughout the earth, and all the fruit trees are for your food. And I have given you green plant as food for all the wild animals and the birds. Then God looked over all that he had made and saw that it was very good. Then God looked over all that he had made and saw that it was very good. Then God looked over all that he had made and saw that it was very good. Now, this is where questions was arising in me at one point. Because when I was reading this, right? And when I was reading this, I said, wait a minute. This says in chapter 1 that God created everything, meaning he created, this is about to get so good. He created everything. He created the birds. He created the planets. He created the stars. He created the oceans. He created the land. He created human beings in his image. That's what he said. On day 6, that's when he did that. But if you read further, into chapter 2, you will see in chapter 2, he says, then the Lord formed the man from the dust of the ground He breathed the breath of life into the man's nostrils, and man became a living person. That was in chapter 2. But in chapter 1, in chapter 1, it says, so God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. So wait a minute. You just said you created them in chapter 1. But in chapter 2, this is where we see man come to existence. So this is when questions began to ring off in my head, like, what are you saying? So here's the deal. This is where, dang, oh my God. This is where you understand how God creates. This is where you understand how God creates. Why is this important? Because for you to live in the supernatural, you have to understand how to create in the supernatural. For you to get supernatural results in your life, you got to understand how they're created. So let me go back. So in verse 27, chapter 1 of Genesis, it says, so God created human beings in his own image. Remember, God doesn't have a face. He's spirit. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Boom. That's chapter 1. But when you go to chapter 2, it says, then the Lord God formed. Woo! So in chapter 1, it says God created. In chapter 2, he said form. Point number 3, you have to know the difference between creation and formation. That was good. That's the whole call. That could be the whole call. You got to know the difference between creation and formation. See, that's why when we say your goals are already done, it's because you already created them with your words. But now what you're waiting on is the formation, the physical manifestation of the goal. Listen. Then the Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground. But if you go back some more, you will see that he said on the sixth day, he said, then God looked over all that he had made and saw that it was very good. What's my fourth point? God didn't need to see manifestation of something before he called it good. He didn't need to see manifestation of something before he called it good, because he called it good before the physical manifestation happened. He already knew that it was good before the physical manifestation of it happened. How does that relate to you? Because you got to know what you're doing, what you're saying is already good before it manifests. You got to know that, because when we're talking about living in the supernatural and getting supernatural results, you got to go back to the first story where supernatural showed up and pull points from it and say, man, this is how you do it. Right? This is how you do it. So the first point from this story, from this text, you have to understand the weight that your words carry. But then the second point, you got to understand why your words carry weight. Your words carry weight because you're a supernatural being created in the image of the supernatural. Supernatural power lives inside of you. Whether you believe it or not, supernatural power lives on the inside of you. I'm getting hot in here. And then the third point, which is so good to me, it just did my spirit so good, because I'm reading it, I'm saying, dang, he just said that he looked over everything he made and he called it good. And he didn't even do anything on the seventh day because everything was already good. And then you peruse down to chapter 2, and then you see he says he formed the man from the dust of the ground. But in chapter 1, it was already good before the formation happened, before the physical manifestation happened. It was already good. He was already grateful for it because he knew that it was already done. Before it ever showed up in the back office, he already knew. Before it ever showed up in the trading account, he already knew. Why? Because he understood the power of creation. Right? So now we got to go back to the second point. You got to be aware of the power that lives on the inside of you. Because once you become aware of that, everything begins to change. When you become aware that you're a temple of the Spirit, when you become aware that the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is the same Spirit that lives inside of you, when you become aware of that, everything begins to change. All right? Because you'll really be aware that, man, it don't matter what I do in the physical world, creation always happens in the spirit. Formation happens in the physical world. Formation happens in the flesh. Manifestation happens in the flesh. But then you start reading, you start studying, you get aware, and then you read, and you will see that it says that I am the Lord God of all flesh. He's over everything. All flesh, all manifestation. Everything. I am the Lord God of all flesh, all manifestation. That's what he said. That's what he said. And again, he didn't have to see the manifestation of something for him to call it good. It was already good. It was already good. It was already good. So before we can tap into the supernatural, we have to be aware of all of that. We got to be. Because if you're not aware of all of that, and that's why I'm glad you're on the call, because if you weren't aware before, you're aware now. But there's no way that you can live in the supernatural without being aware of how the supernatural works. You have to be aware. You have to know that your words carry weight. You have to know that you create the same way that God creates, and God only creates with his words. Then God looked of all he made and saw that it was very good. And evening passed and morning came, making the sixth day. Chapter 2. So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them, this is so good. So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all of his work. What's my point? What's my point? Everything, like I said at the beginning of the call, every person, every resource, every piece of knowledge that you need is already here because he stopped creating on day 6. Day 7, he rested. That's not what I said. That's what he said. So the creation of the heavens and earth and everything in them was completed. So all your goals complete. All the things that you want to acquire is all completed. Once you begin to speak it, it's done. He already set it out for you. What you're waiting on now is formation. But you got to call it good before the formation happens. You got to be grateful for it before the formation actually happens, because he saw that it was good on day 6, but man wasn't created or formed until day 7. There's a difference between creation and formation. And see, be real, as I was thinking about this, as I was thinking about the word creation and the word formed, I'm just playing these words back to back, back to back, back to back, back to back. And it just made me think. That's why it says in the text that before I formed you, I already knew you. Why? Because we were created in spirit. Before I formed you, I knew you. Before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you because you were created in spirit. Before I formed you, I had already created you. I don't even think y'all feeling me right now. Before I formed you, I knew you because you were already created. You were already created in spirit. See, your parents might have been surprised at your arrival, but God was not. Like your parents may have thought you were an accident, but God, he didn't. He was, he already knew that you would be here at this particular time. He knew that you would be on this call at this moment, thousands of years ago. You want to know how I know? Because if you go back to the text, it says, so God created human beings with an S in his own image. It doesn't say that he created Adam. Oh my God. It don't say he created Adam, B-Jack. Yo. It says, so God created human beings in his image. What is his image? His image is spirit. Male and female, he created them. So he created the male spirit and the female spirit. At this point, there was no such thing as man and woman. This is so good. He created the male spirit and a female spirit. So when we say that you're a spiritual being and you possess a soul and you live in a body, this is what we mean. When we say that you're a spiritual being, you possess a soul and you live in a body, this is what we mean. And because you were created in spirit, that means you have to create what you want, create your life in spirit. And without understanding of all of this, you cannot successfully live in the supernatural. Without understanding of this, you cannot live in the supernatural. Because you have to be aware that of the spirit that lives on the inside of you. Because it's not going to be you that creates the supernatural. It's the power that's working in you that does the supernatural. So moving on. So now you got steps. Now you got steps on how to tap into the supernatural. Now that we're aware, right? Now that we're aware of what it is, how it came to be, now I can give steps on how to tap in and live in the supernatural. All this is building up to the work, but I got to give you this before we get to the basic work, because without this, you won't do the work. How do I know? Because a lot of us on the line, we haven't been doing the work as it is. So I got to give you this for you to actually do the work. Because when you get this, you work from a different place. You work different when you're working from identity, when you know who you really are, when you know the power, the spirit that lives on the inside of you, that works all the things, the desire, the willpower. Like when you're aware of that and you're not working for identity to prove something to somebody, prove something to your mom, prove something to the haters, prove something to your dad. When you're working from identity, knowing what's already inside of you, you work from a different place. So the first key to tap into the supernatural is you have to be aware of the supernatural God. All right, you have to be aware of the supernatural God. Now, you have an option. You have the option to believe everything that I'm saying, or you have the option to not believe what I'm saying. Here's the deal. They both take the same energy. The same energy that it takes to say, oh, I don't believe that, is the same energy that it takes to say, oh, I do believe that. Right? So you have an option. Me personally, I would believe. I would listen. I would take it in. Because here's the deal. You already know what your life looks like when you don't apply the information. What do you think your life would start to look like if you actually applied the information? You already see what life looks like without it. Without a higher level of consciousness, you already know. But what would life look like if you began to apply what's being taught and you were listening? You weren't hearing, because here's the deal. Listening and hearing are two completely different things. When you hear with your ears. But when you listen, you're listening with emotion. Very big difference. Very big difference. So the first way to tap into the supernatural is you have to be aware of the supernatural God. You got to be aware. You got to know that the world that we live in today was created with words. You got to believe it. Because when you're aware of that, you'll begin to say, man, if he can create the sun and the moon and have them hanging there with no balance in the earth and all these planets just hanging there and stars just hanging there, then what can he do for me? Like, if he can create all the birds and he can create a human being from the dust of the ground, then you talking about 500 people chairman? That's easy. Because there's nothing too hard for God. But that's why I got to be aware. The second point, you got to trust the supernatural God. This is where faith comes in place, right? This is where faith comes into place. You have to trust. You got to trust. See, most people don't trust. You got to trust the supernatural God. So you got to be aware, and then you got to trust. Trust means have faith. But this is this part right here, the third key. Oh man, this is where you really got to get it. This is where you really have to get it. Number 3, you have to realize your oneness with the supernatural God. You got to realize your oneness with the supernatural God. You have to realize your oneness with the supernatural God. See, here's the deal. One of the reasons why I believe that a lot of prayers don't get answered, a lot of visions don't come to pass, a lot of things don't happen for people is because they believe in a God, let's use the word apart, right? They believe in a God that's like apart from them, like away from them. And what they do is they mumble vague words and there's no feeling and it just doesn't work. But see, when you realize your oneness, meaning that he's in me, making me one with him, then it's game over. Because at this point, you've really become aware of your supernatural power. This is when you really become aware. Like, you have to realize your oneness with the supernatural God. The carpenter from Galilee said it best. His name was Jesus. I and the Father are one. I and the Father are one. You got to understand all this stuff to live in the supernatural. You have to understand all of this to live in the supernatural. And that's why we're having this call. So step number 3, you have to realize your oneness. Like, God is not apart from me. God is in me. And because God is in me, I possess supernatural capabilities to do the supernatural. And it starts with my words. See, here's the deal. The first function of faith is to make God real. That's the first function of faith. He has to be real to you. He has to be on the inside of you. You have to feel him on the inside of you. Because if not, you can't move in the supernatural. There's no way that it's going to work for you. Again, I and the Father are one. This is words from Jesus. I and the Father are one. I'm in God. God is in me. And then if you keep reading in another book, it'll tell you to have the same attitude of Jesus. Though he was God, he didn't think of himself as equal to God. So what does this mean for you? Yeah, you're a God, but you're little g. He's big G. But when you become aware of the power and become aware of your oneness, you can now begin to live in the supernatural. So I got to be aware. I got to trust. And I got to realize my oneness with the supernatural God. Number 4, language. My language has to be, I have to display a certain type of language to live in the supernatural. I gotta have a certain type of language to live in the supernatural. See, here's the deal. I was just telling JVL yesterday. Last year, towards the end of the year, there was a lot of momentum in the whole entire company. Right? A lot of people was hitting ranks. We were able to go from C25 to chairman 50 in 7 days. It was a lot of stuff happening at this towards the end of the year. In the company, we broke 4 chairmen in like a 45, 60-day period. 4 chairmen broke in the organization. But here's a nugget for you. Here's a secret for you. That didn't happen for everybody's organization. Like everybody in our personal organization didn't have, crazy breakthrough, or they didn't get closest, I don't know what, to their next rank, or they didn't hit their next rank. You have some people that were chairman 10 for 2 years and they still haven't progressed. You have some people that were stuck at ranks and they didn't move. You got some people, like it was, everybody didn't have that breakthrough. Everybody didn't just have people skipping ranks in the organization. Everybody's organization didn't grow by 200, 300 people on a week-to-week basis. Like that didn't happen for everybody in the whole entire company. But why did it happen for us though? Like how did we go in a year, not even a year, in 9 months, how did we go from a Platinum 2000 to Chairman 50? It was because of language. It was because of language. Somebody just dropped it in the chat box. Everybody was saying bamboo season. Everybody. We had people in other organizations that were saying bamboo season. So because people were saying bamboo season, what was happening? We was hearing bamboo season. Because people was typing bamboo season, guess what we were seeing? We were seeing bamboo season. We was going out in public and we were seeing bamboo everywhere because of the language. And that's why the supernatural results came. It has everything to do with language. So now you think about the past 3 or 4 months, why has it been so slow? Why has it been, there's been no language. There's been no language. And that's what God was speaking to me. He said, man, you have no strategy. You have no language. Because when 2 or 3 or more agree on something, it's done. But we didn't have people agreeing on something. And that's when he gave me Supernatural 60. Show my people how to live in the supernatural. There has to be a language. Man, this is so good. So guess what I got? I got language for you. Let me share my screen really quickly. And I want everybody to screenshot this and have it. And then you type it up and do what you want with it, or just whatever. But I want to have everybody have it because I don't want to spend too much time here. Uh-oh. Come on, Cool Jones, tighten up. Boom. All right, here's the language. Here's language. Here's language. These are affirmations. To me, I call them daily deposits. So everybody screenshot it and get it because I don't want to spend too much time here. But this is the language that you want to be speaking to live in the supernatural. This is what I've already been speaking for like 2 months now, right? These have, well, about a month and a half. These have already been my affirmations. I am supernatural. I live in the supernatural. I feel supernatural. I was created to be like the supernatural. Supernatural power lives on the inside of me. Every day I'm becoming more aware of the supernatural. Supernatural activity is happening in my world right now. My results in every area of my life are supernatural. I succeed in everything I do because I am supernatural. Whatever follows I am will always follow you. Why? Because the supernatural God, guess what his name is? I am. Guess what? You see how everything is so connected? Do you see how everything is so connected? Right? So I hope you got that. I'm going to unshare that. I just had to give you the language. So now there's no reason why everybody doesn't have the language. See, when people ask me how I feel, guess what I say? Supernatural. How's everything going? It's going supernatural. Why am I doing that? Because I got to get myself to a place where it's not in my conscious mind. It has moved down to my supernatural mind, AKA your subconscious mind, AKA your God mind. Right. That's where you got to get. That's why you got to keep saying it over and over and over again. So when somebody asks you how you doing, don't just say I'm doing good. Tell them you're doing supernatural. When somebody asks you how you feeling, you don't say I'm feeling good. You tell them I'm feeling supernatural. Why? Because the more you see it, the more you say it, the more you're going to start to believe it. And whatever follows I am will always follow you. So when you say I am supernatural, supernatural activity is going to follow you. I succeed in everything that I do because I am supernatural. Supernatural activity is happening in my world right now. Supernatural power lives on the inside of me. I do the supernatural. I am supernatural. I live in the supernatural. I feel supernatural. That's the language. You got to have the language, guys. The language is important because the language are words. See, words are the birthplace to feelings. Words are the birthplace to feelings. And feelings are important when you're talking about living in the supernatural. Because feeling is the divine shock. Feeling is the shock that sets divine energy into motion. Feeling is the shock that sets divine energy into motion. See, a lot of people on the line, we practice affirmations, but we practice that affirmations with no feeling. We set our goals with no feeling. So divine energy can't go into motion because there's no feeling, because you have to have a feeling, because the feeling is the only place, is the only time where the supernatural is going to activate. The feeling activates in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is your supernatural mind. The subconscious mind is the only way to access God. So you got to have the language. You got to have the language. You should be speaking the language and feeling the language. You should be using the wind emojis all the time because there's something about the supernatural. See, we know the story of David and Goliath, and we know that David killed Goliath with the slingshot, with the rock. But see, there was something behind the rock. There was a supernatural wind, but there was a supernatural wind behind the rock. And that's how he killed a 9-foot giant with the slingshot, who was trained for war, who was trained in battle. And David used to train the sheep and train the goats and till the ground. He wasn't a warrior at this point. But there's something about that supernatural wind when it gets onto something, it'll kill a giant. Whew, that's why that wind emoji is so important. So we have to be aware of the supernatural. We got to trust the supernatural, realize our oneness with the supernatural, have the language to activate the supernatural. And then we got to have gratitude, everlasting gratitude, because it's gratitude that keeps you connected to power. And when you don't exercise gratitude, you cannot exercise power. You draw near to God, he draws near to you. You do that through your gratitude. You should have a gratitude flow. That's what I call it. I call it a gratitude flow, where I'm just saying I'm thankful. See, I used to write stuff down, but see, what I learned is when I'm writing stuff down, I can't get a feeling out of writing it down. So I got to go into a flow of gratitude where I'm just saying what I'm thankful for. And it's not one time a day. It's all throughout the day. That's why the book says pray without ceasing. That doesn't mean get on your knees and pray all throughout the day. That means use your mouth, use your words to express what you're grateful for. Express your affirmations. So your language and your gratitude have to be constant to live in the supernatural, to tap into the supernatural. And most importantly, guys, you got to play your movie. When you're trying to live in the supernatural, when you're attempting to live in the supernatural, you have to play your movie. What's your movie? Your movie is your vision. And what's your vision? A supernatural download from God. The vision didn't come from you, because guess what the book says? We were created in his image to be like him. What was his image? His image was spirit. What is the mind? The mind is spirit. He gave you the vision in your mind, spirit. So you have to play your movie. Constantly play the movie. But now here's the deal. It's steps to playing the movie. So these are the steps to playing the movie. And we're about to get into the work. And the work is so small. The work is so easy. The work is so light. I just had to give you foundation before you do the work. All right. So what are the steps to manifestation, the steps to watching your movie become a reality? Well, the first thing is, guys, you got to release the desire with the deep feeling to your supernatural mind. You got to release the desire with the deep feeling to your supernatural mind, your subconscious mind. I'm going to be using the word supernatural mind for subconscious mind, right? You got to release the desire with the deep feeling to your supernatural mind, all right? I'm going to go over all this stuff in a minute. The second step, you got to let God have it. This is the hardest stuff for people. And it goes back to the second step of how to tap into the supernatural. You got to trust. You got to let God have your vision. Because here's the deal. If you don't let God have your vision, what you're doing is saying that I don't believe that he can do it and I'm better. And once that thought creeps in your mind, guess what creeps in your heart? Pride. And when pride is existing, God can't exist. God can't exist where pride is present. Give it to God. I'm gonna do this myself. I'm gonna do this myself. I'm gonna go out there and make it happen. No, you just create it. It's so good. You just create it. All you do is create it. And the formation is gonna happen when it's time. So you release the desire with a deep feeling to your subconscious mind. Then you let God have it. And then step number 3, this is another hard part. Don't question or wonder how it's going to happen. Don't question or wonder how the desire or the movie is going to be fulfilled. Don't do that. It's not your business. It's not your business how it happens. But guess what? Guess what? Then God said, let there be light. And that is what happened. Then God said, let there be a space between the waters to separate the waters from the heaven and the earth. And that is what happened. Then God said, let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place so dry ground may appear. And that is what happened. So once he says it through you, listen to me, because remember, you're God, you're a supernatural being, you possess supernatural power. So once he speaks it through you, once you say it, it's gonna happen. And that is what happened. The and is the time period. The and is where you're waiting. The and is where you're serving. Because you can't try to control the outcome. You just do the work that you're supposed to do. Because every time you start to overwork yourself and get out of your pace, you're showing your lack of faith in God. You're showing your lack of trust. And what happens is you get something that you weren't supposed to have at that time. But through grace, he gives you chairman. Through grace, he gives you a new rank. But now you got to hold yourself down at that position, at that place in your life, because he didn't want you to be there at that time. God don't always bless what we build. He only blesses what he tells us to build. He don't always bless what we build. He only blesses what he tells us to build at the time he tells us to build it. So I got to release my desire. I got to release it to my mind and let God have it. And I'm not going to question how it's going to happen. And I'm going to keep my movie playing in my mind. Your vision has to be clear. Just how you watch a movie or something on Netflix, that's how clear you have to see your vision. That's how clear you have to see your goal. That's how clear you got to see what your life is going to look like after you embark on this 60-day supernatural journey. Because that's what this is about. It's not, here's the deal. Let me give you a disclaimer. It's not to say that everybody's going to have supernatural results in 60 days. What you're doing is doing the work over the course of 60 days to set the game for the next 8 months afterwards. That's what you're doing. If something happens in these 60 days for you, awesome, brilliant, phenomenal. But if nothing doesn't happen, don't get stressed out, because you should already realize and understand that God doesn't live in time. You want to know how I know he doesn't live in time? But because before time existed, he was already here. He didn't create time until the third day. He didn't create time until the third day. So he don't live in time. He lives in eternity. So we can't say, oh man, it should happen. I should have been a chairman already, or I should have been at this position already. Says who? Who said that? It's not your time. See, he don't. It's 11:05 right now. He don't live on that. He didn't even create that until the third day. Actually, the fourth day. It was the fourth day. So he spent 3 days with no time, because on day 4, that's when he said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark seasons, days, and years." That was on day 4. So that should let you know that as a spiritual being living in the physical body, you should not live in time either. Because if you want to live in the supernatural, there's no such thing as time. There's no such thing as time. You just keep showing up. You just keep tilling the ground. You just keep doing what you know you're supposed to be doing. You just keep trusting the process and not rushing the process. All right? So step number 5, you accept the outcome. You accept it. You accept it as manifested. You call it good. You call it good. Before it shows up, you call it good. Before it shows up, you call it blessed, because that's what God did. That's what he said he did on day 6, right? Then God looked over all he had made and saw that it was very good. So you look over all that you create, everything that you create in spirit, you close your eyes, you see it, and you look at it, and you call it good. You call it good. So step number 1, release the desire to your supernatural mind. Step number 2, you let God have it. Step number 3, you don't question or wonder how it's going to be fulfilled. Step number 4, you keep the movie playing in your mind. Step number 5, you accept it as manifested and call it good. You accept it as manifested and you call it good. Let me go back up to how to tap into the supernatural. Step number 1, you got to be aware of the supernatural God. Step number 2, you trust the supernatural God. Step number 3, realize your oneness with the supernatural God. He's not apart from you. He's inside of you. You can't live in the supernatural without understanding that he lives on the inside of you. Number 4, your language. I just gave you the language. You should be saying that every day. You should get into a flow. You should get into a flow of that. It's not, you're not mumbling vain words. You got to get into a flow. It has to become, the feeling has to become real to you. The gratitude has to become real to you. Your movie has to become real to you. So going back to the steps of manifestation, right? So I just gave you the 5 steps. Now, the most practical way of doing this would be through meditation. The most practical way of doing this would be through meditation. Matter of fact, the most practical way to do the language, the gratitude, the manifest, all through meditation, all throughout the day, but primarily through meditation. So what you want to do, and this is a step that's a part of the work. This is a step, a part of the spiritual work over the next 60 days to see a breakthrough in 2020. You got to have vision. What's your 2020 goal? Because this is how it's going to manifest. Like before the year started, I already said it's harvest season. It's harvest season. And we're going to see supernatural results in our harvest because of this spiritual work and the physical work that I'm about to give you. So you want to literally carve out about 15 to 20 minutes a day. You got 24 hours. Out of those 24 hours, find 15 to 20 minutes daily where you dedicate to your language, to your gratitude, to you playing your movie in your mind. Right? Go on YouTube and just type in like peaceful music or yoga music or meditation music, and you just sit there and you get into a flow, you get into a rhythm. You close your eyes and you think. Do it for 10, 15 minutes a day for 60 days. I guarantee your life is going to change. Because your feelings are going to change. Your emotions are going to change. The words that come out of your mouth are going to change. You can play the movie in your mind clearly as you sit there and peacefully think. Me and my wife do it every day. So I'm not telling you something that I've read in the book. I'm telling you what I do in my life. What I've been doing in my life. This ain't even something I just made. I've been doing this stuff. But God has given it to me where I can package it and give it to everybody so we all can do it together. Because that's how the supernatural is going to happen. Because remember last year, everybody was saying bamboo season. Everybody was on one accord. Everybody had one language that was directed towards bamboo season. Now it's supernatural. Everything in your life is about to get supernatural. You're going to start meeting people who also live in the supernatural. That's another pro of living in the supernatural because your vibrational frequency is at an all-time high. So now the people that you attract in your business, they're also supernatural. They're also supernatural, right? So we're almost done. Let me get to the work. Right? So, because without the work, nothing works. Without the work, see, it's the work that makes your faith complete. It's the work that makes your faith complete. And it's your faith that produces the miracle. You want to write that down. It's your work that makes your faith complete, but it's the faith that produces the miracle. It's the faith that produces the miracle. It's not the work that produces the miracle. It's not the work that produces the miracle. It's not. It's your faith that produces the miracle. But your work is proof that you really have faith. It's not your work that produces the miracle. Because remember, a miracle is supernatural. A miracle is supernatural. A miracle is supernatural. So it's not going to be the work. Work can't produce the supernatural. Supernatural produces the supernatural. So it's going to be your faith that produces the supernatural, but your faith isn't complete without the work. That's why you got to work. But here's the deal. You got some people that you got two types of people. You got a person that works from the idea that is done, and you got a person that works from the idea that is not done. You got one person that works from the idea that is done, and you have one person that works from the idea that is not done. And the feelings, the emotional frequency that both people carry while they're working is completely different. See, the way that David works is different from the way that you work. Because David works with the idea, with the revelation in mind that everything has already been created. He knows that it's already done. He knows that it's already done in the spirit world. It's already created in the spirit world. He's just waiting for formation in the physical world. Then you have the person that doesn't believe that it's already done. So they work really, really hard in the physical world, not understanding that I have to create it first in the spiritual world. And and what they do is try to make something that's never been created. Something can't be made or formed until it's first been created. And we learn that from the number one creator. So for you to do the work effectively, you have to work with the idea that your goal is already done, because every action that you take is going to be strong or weak. Every action that you take is going to be strong, or the action is going to be weak. You make your action strong by holding on to the vision. You make your action strong by putting all your faith and will into the work, because you know that it's already done. This is where people fail. This is where people fail. They work, they do the work, but their mind is in a different place from the work. Your mind and the work have to be on the same frequency. I have to be working with the thought in mind that is already done. I have to be working with the thought in mind that supernatural power lives in me. I have to be working from the place of the vision in the screen of my mind. And that allowed me to do the work easy. That will allow me to do the work easier when I understand that it's already done, literally. And the feelings that I have as I'm doing the work is proof that I really believe that it's done, because I feel good. It don't matter who don't come to the event, I still know that it's done. It doesn't matter who doesn't get on the webinar, I still know that it's done. It doesn't matter who leaves the company and does something else or go get a job. It don't matter. I know that it's done. Because when somebody leaves, it's working for my good. When somebody doesn't come to my event, it's working for my good. When somebody quits, it's still working for my good. How do I know it's working for my good? Because the text says all things work together for the good. All things. Not some things, not small things, all things. So everything is working together for my, it don't matter what happened, it's working together for my good. It's working together for my good. So the work is very simple. The work is very simple. So supernatural 60. Yeah, we're going to get supernatural results all throughout the year, but we also have a goal for the next 60 days. We also have a work goal for the next 60 days. And the work goal is 60 brand new Platinum 600s. Now, what that's going to do is going to create about 15 to 20 brand new Platinum 1000s over a 60-day period. So if you're not a Platinum 600, guess what? You got 60 days to get it done. You got 60 days to get it done. But see, when you become aware of everything that we just talked about, you got to know that it's done already. If you don't believe that it's done now, you're never going to believe that it's done. If you don't believe that you can get to an extra $600 per month with the creative power that lives inside of you, and you're aware of it now, you're not going to get there. All right, so that's the work. 60 Platinum 600 is going to create about 15 to 20 brand new P1s. It's going to generate over 100,000, well over 100,000 in volume in a very short period of time. That's how you create momentum, a sudden burst of energy, a sudden burst of activity. So what's the actual steps to get it done? You want to write this stuff down because we're about to be done with the call in about 5 minutes. It's very simple. All right. And if you already are a Platinum 600 or a Platinum 1000, P2, whatever you are, you should be focused on how many new Platinum 600s am I going to break in my organization? Because you can't have a Platinum 1000 without a Platinum 600. All right. So this is the work, right? What you want to do is connect with 7 to 10 brand new people every single day. You want to connect with 7 to 10 people every single day. All right, so let me pull out my calculator. This is 60 days. Let's say we connected with we did the bare minimum, did 7. We did 7 people times 60. That's 420 new people that we have connected with. Power numbers. So if we just connected with 7 people a day, for 60 days. That's 420 brand new people that are in our network. That's the first step. I need to connect with 7 to 10 brand new people a day. All right. The law of numbers states that 10% will be 42 people. Let's say you suck and you don't even get 10%. Let's say you're bad. You don't do the average, right? I'm not gonna say you suck, but let's say you don't do 10%. Let's say you do 8 people. Is it worth it? Absolutely, it's worth it, because now you're only 4 away from Platinum 600. So again, the work is very easy. Everybody knows what to do. We just don't do it. Why? Because we don't have the faith to believe that it's already done. Because if you knew that it was really already done, you would do it to watch it manifest. All right. So connect with 7 to 10 people a day. Right. And then this is more work, right? You want to set up 4 to 6 meetings over the next 60 days. You want to set up 4 to 6 meetings. This is where we're going to weed out who's serious and who's curious. You want to set up 4, if you're not a Platinum 600, right? You want to be setting up 4 to 6 meetings. I don't care what your rank is. You should be doing meetings all the time. All right. But if you're not a Platinum 600 right now, 9 times out of 10, you haven't been showing the plan 4 to 6 times a week. So I'm not going to tell you to show the plan 4 to 6 times a week, and you ain't been doing that. But what I can tell you is, hey, let's do 4 to 6 meetings over the next 60 days. That's 1 meeting a week. That could be a webinar. That could be a watch party. That could be a Zoom. It could be a home event. But you want to set those up, and you want to put a date on it immediately. You want to have your first 2 dates set up where you're going to show the plan, or you're going to have a mentor or a coach come out there and show the plan for you, or get them on the webinar and they show the plan for you. But see, when you're talking to 7 to 10 new people a day, now you have people to invite to your meeting. So after every meeting that I do, guess what my goal is? I need to get 2 to 3 people in the system. So if my meeting is on a Friday, or let's say my meeting is on a Monday or Tuesday, I need to have 2 to 3 people in over the next 3 to 5 days. I need to have 2 to 3 people in over the next 3 to 5 days, preferably the same day. But we know how people are. I don't have my money. I got to wait till my next check, whatever the case may be. You should be collecting decisions from all these people. And your goal should be get 2 to 3 enrollments after every meeting that I do. Connect with 7 to 10 people a day. I'm about to do 4 to 6 meetings. And at every meeting that I do, I'm going to get 2 to 3 people enrolled. Because if I get 2 to 3 people enrolled at every meeting that I do over the next 60 days, I'm for sure going to be a Platinum 600. But how you create more success for yourself, what's set to do over 60 days, you do it in 30. So now you knock out your 6 meetings in 1 month. You knock out all 6 meetings in the month of March. And then for the month of April, you're now preparing for Platinum 1000 because you're doing the work. Because you understand the supernatural power that lives on the inside of you. That supernatural power can't fail. Now that I'm aware of it, let me tap into it and do the work knowing that it's already done. Because I'm supernatural. I live in the supernatural. I feel supernatural. Everything I do, I get good results because I am supernatural. Supernatural power lives on the inside of me. So why can't I go Platinum 600 if I'm supernatural? That's how you got to look at it. Right? So I'm going to connect with 7 to 10 people a day. I'm going to set up my 4 to 6 meetings. I'm going to put a date on it with my workout partner. Your workout partner is your coach, your mentor, whoever you're working with on these meetings. And you want to get them done. You want to have these meetings scheduled ASAP. You want to have your first 2 meetings scheduled, because once you put a date on it and get a flyer made, we can now start promoting for your events, your webinar, whatever you're doing. But you want to have a Platinum 600 or Platinum 1000 that you're working with to help you get this thing done, or somebody higher than them. And after every meeting, after every event, I need to get 2 to 3 people enrolled in my business. Also, I need to be doing 2 to 5 3-ways a day. I need to be doing 2 to 5 3-ways every single day. Because if I'm talking to people, I need to have them connected with somebody who's better than me to validate the information, to guide them to the webinar, to guide them to the event. That's the work. The work is always simple. There's no other way to slice and dice it. That's the work. Everybody knows what to do, but they just don't do it. Why? Because they don't believe that they can. But once you become aware of the supernatural power that lives inside of you, you understand that I can do all things. That's what you begin to understand, because you're supernatural. So if you believe you're supernatural, drop a I am supernatural in the chat box. I believe it, so I'm going to drop it in there. I am supernatural. Boom. I am supernatural. Because remember, whatever follows I am will always follow you. Whatever follows I am will always follow you. So, man, that's it, guys. I hope everybody got value from the call tonight. We're going to do another call. I'll be doing another call tomorrow. And this call particularly about building the business. It's going to be all strategy on building the business, how to do 3-ways, how to close, how to prospect. I'm doing a full out chairman blueprint call tomorrow at the same time, 10 o'clock. So feel free to invite somebody, get them on the call, invite your organizations, get them on the call. But tomorrow will be all strategy, physical strategy. So we have our spiritual strategy. We have the steps to getting it done. All you have to do now is apply it, right? So I'm gonna just run through it one more time so everybody can have it. So how to tap into the supernatural. Number one, you got to be aware of the supernatural God, right? Number two, you got to trust. This is where faith comes in place, because you can't be aware of something and not trust it. You have to trust it for it to manifest. Then number three, you got to realize your oneness with the supernatural God. God's not apart from me. God lives in me. And because he lives in me, I have the ability to do the supernatural because he does the supernatural through me, right? I am God, but I don't think of myself as equal to God. I take the same attitude that Jesus had, right? I'm a servant. Right. So number four, language, the affirmations. I already gave the language. Right. So every day I'm supernatural. I feel supernatural. Get yourself into a habit, get yourself into a flow so you can start believing it. Because right now you don't believe it yet. There's no feeling with it yet, most people. But when you start saying it over and over and over again, whatever you say long enough, whatever you see long enough, you'll start to believe, and a feeling is going to be created. And that feeling is what sets divine energy into motion. When there's no feeling, supernatural power, supernatural energy, it can't go into motion. The next step, gratitude. Gratitude, a constant flow of gratitude, a constant flow of being thankful. One of my good friends, his name is Chandler Moore. He just released a song on YouTube called Thank Yous. His name is Chandler Moore. Highly suggest everybody check it out. That's my gratitude flow song. I love it. I just heard it yesterday. It's my favorite song already. All right. Then number five, or the next step, number six, play your movie. How to manifest your movie. Release the desire. Let God have it. Don't question how it's going to be fulfilled. Keep a positive image in your mind and accept the outcome of it. All right. Accept the outcome of it. All right. So somebody said, what's the song called? The song is called Thank You. It's called, just type in Chandler Moore, Thank You, and just play it all day. Right. It's a very good song. So I love you all. I'll see you all at the bank. For those that are going to get on the call tomorrow, bring your notepad, get somebody on the call with you. Don't come along, and let's have a good week. Get into a flow, get into a practice, get into a habit of saying that you're supernatural. I am supernatural, because again, it's going to follow you. Whatever follows I am will always follow you. Love you all. God bless.